What if I told you there was a first-time NFL GM who hit the ultimate lottery ticket, drafting the greatest quarterback prospect in league history with his very first pick? But what followed destroyed the career of one of the NFL's brightest stars and set an entire organization back over a decade. Unfortunately for the Indianapolis Colts, that's exactly what happened. If you're ready for the story, sit back and get your popcorn ready because you're watching Tales of the Gridiron and the story of how an NFL general manager destroyed a franchise. In the 2000s, the Indianapolis Colts were the gold standard of the NFL. Their high-powered offense, led by Peyton Manning, carried the team to consistent winning seasons and ultimately a Super Bowl victory in the 2006 season. But in 2011, Manning suffered a serious neck injury that required season-ending surgery. Without him, the Colts collapsed to a 2-14 record, landing the number 1 pick in the NFL draft. Now, this draft was unlike any other because it contained what many considered the crown jewel, Andrew Luck, touted as the best quarterback prospect since Peyton Manning himself. Now, the Colts faced a difficult decision, but ultimately chose to part ways with their legendary quarterback, and along with Manning, other franchise pillars like Dallas Clark, Joseph Adai, head coach Jim Caldwell, and even Hall of Fame general manager Bill Polian were all shown the door.
I go with just a few words left to say. A few words I want to address to Colts fans everywhere. Thank you very much from the bottom of my heart. I truly have enjoyed being your quarterback. Thank you.
So it was evident that a full rebuild was underway in Indianapolis. Owner Jim Irsay hired first-time GM Ryan Grigson to lead the team. And in his very first draft, Grigson selected Andrew Luck with the first overall pick and T.Y. Hilton in the 3rd round to pair Luck with the brand new receiver. Luck played like a star from day one, carrying the Colts back to the playoffs as a rookie. They went from the first pick in the draft back to the playoffs in one season. So obviously, heading into 2013, optimism was sky high. Luck was entering his second year, and head coach Chuck Pagano had returned after beating cancer. Expectations in Indianapolis were real. And with that in mind, Grigson swung for the fences in free agency, signing players like LaRon Landry, Goster Chilleris, Eric Walden, and Ricky Jean-Francois. None of those players finished their contracts with the team, and to make matters worse, the Colts spent their first-round draft pick on Bjorn Werner, a defensive end who lasted just 3 seasons, starting only 15 games. And I wish I could say the damage stopped there in the 2013 offseason, but it did not.
There is a trade that Jim Irsay is mentioning on Twitter. You may not believe this, but Trent Richardson has been traded to the Indianapolis Colts.
Richardson lasted only 2 seasons with the Colts, averaging a miserable 3.1 yards per carry. But despite these just terrible moves, the Colts kept on winning, almost entirely on the back of Andrew Luck's late-game heroics and fourth-quarter comebacks. The Colts did make the playoffs in 2013 and even won a playoff game. Unfortunately for the Colts, over the next 2 seasons, Ryan Grigson continued to make poor personnel decisions. He signed veterans like Andre Johnson and Arthur Jones, DeQuell Jackson, Frank Gore, aging players added to this Colts nucleus that just did not mesh. Meanwhile, Luck was taking an absolute beating behind a neglected offensive line. Instead of addressing protection, Grigson used his first-round draft pick on wide receiver Philip Dorsett, who also failed to live up to expectations. The same year that Grigson addressed skilled positions, Luck's body began to break down. A shoulder injury, broken ribs, and even a lacerated kidney forced him to miss significant time. The hits had finally began to take their toll on Andrew Luck. Grigson lasted just 1 more season as the GM before being fired in 2017. It was later reported that Jim Irsay even hired psychologists to help mend a broken relationship between Grigson and head coach Chuck Pagano, essentially hiring counselors to keep the peace between the two, but ultimately the relationship and Grigson himself was deemed unworkable. The aftermath of Ryan Grigson's tenure is difficult to measure. One of the most promising players in NFL history saw his career cut short, and the culture in Indianapolis was fractured.
Wait, what changed from the first regime to the second? How do I describe everything?
Ryan Grigson.
How they painted over the walls. They painted over all of our history.
I was very salty at that. So it was a mural of basically Colts heritage. Just the Super Bowl wins.
Baltimore.
Just Johnny Unitas, Peyton Manning, Edgerrin James. He painted over that but why, I don't know. I don't know still to this day. But
now, stories of mismanagement in the NFL are not new, but the gap between what the Colts could have been and what they actually became is one of the most tragic tales in modern football. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments below what story you would like to see next. Thanks for watching Tales of the Gridiron.